Welcome to the Deep Dive. We got a specific request from you, listener, so today we're doing just that, diving deep into Warhammer 40,000. Space Marine Master Crafted Edition. Just came out recently.
Yep. And we've got a few things to work with here. Mostly a pretty detailed game review, some info on the Game Pass release, and a bit of context from the Xbox site, too.
Right. So our mission today is, well, let's unpack it. What is this remastered? What's good? What maybe shows its age?
And specifically, what does Mastercrafted Edition actually mean for you, especially if you're grabbing it on Game Pass?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We want to figure out if this brutal blast of nostalgic fun, as one source put it, is really worth jumping into. Let's try and get a quick, solid handle on it.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The game itself. What's the core experience here?
Well, at its heart, it's a remaster of a 2011 game, third-person shooter. Became a bit of a cult favorite, actually.
Uh-huh.
And you're playing as a space marine. Big power armor, chain sword,
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards.
Right, the iconic stuff. And you're fighting orcs, you're fighting chaos forces, you've got that chainsword for melee, and the bolter, you know, the gun that shoots exploding bullets.
Yeah, it's all about that frontline kind of visceral combat in the, let's be honest, pretty grim Warhammer 40K universe.
Very grimdark, yeah. Puts you right in the thick of it.
Now, something the sources make really clear, and we should too, the type of update this is, it is not a full remake.
No, absolutely not. That's key. It's a remaster. Think.
Yeah.
Polishing up an old gem, not recutting it completely.
So like, better paint job, updated fixtures, but the house structure is still the original 2011 one.
Exactly. Good analogy. The foundations are the same.
Okay, so what did the review say was great about this updated version? What stands out?
Well, first off, the combat. The review used the term. It still slaps.
Okay, so the core fighting still feels good then.
Apparently, yeah. That mix of the chainsword chopping and the bolter shooting is still really satisfying. Brutal, but satisfying. It really sells that power fantasy of being this unstoppable force.
And visually, it got a facelift.
Yeah, definitely. The review mentions it looks sharp, says the remastered visuals sort of breathe new life into it.
Which you'd kind of hope for, coming from 2011 to now.
Right. We're talking higher res textures, better lighting, shadows, things that make it look much cleaner on modern TVs compared to how it would have looked back then.
Uh-huh. What else did they like?
The pacing. The review praised it for having no filler, just straight up action.
Ah, so none of that wandering around huge maps looking for stuff.
Pretty much. It's described as pure, fast-paced action start to finish. Very linear, very focused, which, you know, can actually be a plus these days if you just want to get straight into the fighting.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so that's the good stuff. But like any older game getting a refresh, it probably has some rough edges, right? The review mentioned the old school design shows.
It does, and this is where that remaster versus remake thing really hits home in terms of gameplay. Like, there's no cover system.
Oh, right. Which is pretty standard now.
Very standard in third-person shooters for, like, the last decade plus. And the enemy AI, described as pretty basic. They mostly just run at you.
Okay, so maybe it could feel a bit dated then, especially if you don't already love Warhammer.
Yeah, possibly. If you don't have that built-in excitement for just being a space marine, the mechanics might seem a bit simple compared to, say, more modern combat systems with complex enemy techniques.
And another big point, maybe a surprise for some, no multiplayer.
Correct, that's gone. The original 2011 game did have multiplayer modes, but they've been stripped out for this Mastercrafted edition, so strictly a single-player campaign now.
Gotcha. And the review also called it short.
Yeah, compared to sprawling modern games, it's definitely more concise. Ties back to that no filler point, I guess. It gets going fast, but it doesn't stick around for, 80 hours.
Right. And they didn't pull punches on the gameplay description either. Mindless carnage and a chainsaw to the face.
That chainsaw to the face line really sums it up, doesn't it? It's not about deep strategy. It's about the visceral feel of just wading through enemies. It knows what it wants to be.
So the final verdict from the review, putting it all together.
Basically, a short, brutal blast of nostalgic fun.
Okay.
And it really hits the mark. If you loved the original, or if you're just looking for that kind of straightforward, intense action, especially if you like the 40K setting.
They gave it a number 2, right?
Yeah, 7.5 out of 10. And they compared it to games like Gears of War, maybe the Doom 2016 reboot.
Ah, okay. That helps place it. Gears for the third-person brutality, maybe Doom for that aggressive, push-forward combat style.
Exactly. Even though Space Marine doesn't have Gears' cover system, that comparison gives you a sense of the weight and impact. And Doom captures that fast, relentless feel.
Okay, cool. So that's the game, the good and the, well, maybe dated. But let's zoom in on the Game Pass version. What specifically makes that release, the Mastercrafted Edition on Game Pass, worth looking at?
Right. This is where the Mastercrafted label seems most relevant. It's about making it play well today. Visuals are a big part.
So we're talking those sharper textures again, the better lighting and shadows we mentioned.
Yep. And crucially, performance. It targets 60 frames per second, especially on Series X and S.
Which makes a huge difference in an action game.
Oh, absolutely. Makes everything feel smoother, more responsive. The sources say it just looks much sharper overall than the original, which you need for modern TVs.
What else comes with the Game Pass version? DLC.
Yeah, it bundles in all the original DLC. Things like the Chaos Unleashed pack, some cosmetic skin packs.
But since there's no multiplayer anymore...
Right, that DLC is mostly adding some single-player variety or just letting you change your Space Marines look.
Yeah.
Still nice to have it included, though.
And then there's just the convenience factor of Game Pass itself.
Huge factor. You can play it on your Series XS, PC, or stream it via the cloud if you have Ultimate.
Ah, and cloud saves too, so you can hop between devices.
Exactly. Start on your console, pick it up later on PC, or vice versa. Pretty seamless. That low barrier to entry is a big draw.
Plus, faster load times, presumably, with modern SSDs.
Definitely. The sources mentioned drastically improved load times compared to the original hardware. Less waiting, more. Chainsawing.
Huh. Okay, so the quick summary, the TLDR for the Game Pass version specifically.
Pulled from a source. It doesn't overhaul the game, but it modernizes it just enough to make the action feel fast, crisp, and visually cleaner.
So it was like Game Pass makes it an easy, no-risk dive into this cult classic.
That's exactly how one source put it. If you're subscribed already, you can just download it and see if that specific brand of action clicks with you, now with a nice layer of modern polish.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's probably worth just quickly mentioning, like the Xbox source did, that this is just one tiny corner of the whole Warhammer universe, right? Oh yeah, it's massive. You've got the fantasy side, the old world, and then the huge sci-fi 40K setting this game is in.
And there are tons of other Warhammer games out there, different genres entirely. Totally. The source mentioned things like the upcoming Space Marine 2, obviously, but also the RPG Rogue Trader, the co-op shooter Dark Tide, strategy games, tactical games. It's a whole universe of games.
But this one, Space Marine, Mastercrafted Edition, is specifically that 2011 third-person action experience, just shined up.
Precisely. It offers that particular flavor, updated for today.
Okay, so let's pull this all together then. What's the takeaway? Warhammer 40,000. Space Marine Mastercrafted Edition updates a beloved, fast-paced, kind of old-school action game.
With some meaningful modern touches to visuals and performance, it smooths out some rough edges.
And that value seems particularly strong on Game Pass, where you get those enhancements, plus all the convenience cloud saves, faster loads, play anywhere without buying it outright.
Yeah, it makes trying out a game that might feel a bit mechanically dated surprisingly easy and appealing.
Right, it keeps that core old-school design, but wraps it in modern accessibility.
Which leads us to a final thought, something for you to chew on. This approach, taking a dated but loved classic, keeping its core gameplay intact, warts and all maybe, but giving it a significant modern polish and making it super easy to access via something like Game Pass. Is this maybe the ideal way to experience these kinds of older action games today?
Yeah, is that blend of the nostalgic feel with modern convenience?
Yeah.
Is that enough? Does it let these classics shine again for people who missed them the first time around, or even for returning fans?
Something to think about perhaps next time you're browsing for something to play.